Hello there, how are you tonight? The rooster hasn't crowed yet. The air is thick with dew. And your bed, if you can call a sack of straw held together by despair and goat fur a bed, you with all the comfort of a bag of angry and the unmistakable scent of someone boiling turnips somewhere with malicious intent. Breakfast, perhaps. You stir gently, not because you're ready, but because you're back ISNT built for the 12th century, and it is already filing complaints. You rise not with vigor, but with the resigned sigh of someone who has just remembered there is no indoor plumbing, and the toilet involves a bucket, a walk, and a very public embarrassment. No alarms, no electricity, just a low moan from the wind, a distant squelch of mud under wooden sandals. The medieval world doesn't rush. It creaks open slowly, like an old wooden door that isn't quite sure it wants to be useful today. You're about to embark on a day that requires no high-stakes drama, no heroic battles, just a gentle unraveling of modern comfort, one dusty chore and flavorless meal at a time. So tuck in, wrap yourself in the blanket of calm historical despair, and prepare for a slow, sleepy tumble into the old life you never asked for. You awaken, but not triumphantly. Not like those cinematic slow-mo wake-ups with a triumphant score and morning light bathing your silk sheets. No, this is a hesitant blink into a world made of shadows, cold drafts, and a bed that would be illegal in 42 modern countries. Your mattress is a burlap sack filled with straw, sprinkled generously with hay mites in existential dread. If you're lucky, the smell is mostly barnyard. There's no mirror to gaze at your bleary-eyed despair. But that fine your only audience is a rat nibbling on yesterday's crust and maybe judging you. If you're not, well, let's not talk about goats within it's shared, unlit, and terrifyingly close to the chicken coop. You step carefully over limbs and hooves as you prepare for the day. What awaits? Excitement, adventure. You carry your chamber pot like a sacred relic on your pilgrimage through moist mud and poultry. You sit up, triggering 3 crackling spine pops and a cloud of medieval dust. Time to visit the privy, which is medieval for a hole in the ground that generations have politely ignored, and splash your cheeks with water so cold it gives you flashbacks to when you used to have joy. Back inside, the house is one room. Your siblings, parents, and possibly a confused goat all slept shoulder-to kneecap beside you. You eat it slowly, staring into the void, wondering if medieval gruel counts as a hate crime. Thin, greyish porridge that tastes like someone whispered flavor into a bucket of oats. There is no soap, no toothpaste, no deodorant. If you want to wash your face, you will need to trek to the nearest stream, and thus begins your glorious journey through a single medieval day. Still alive. That's adorable. Let's see how long it lasts. The sun has clawed its way above the horizon, casting just enough light to remind you how terrible everything still is. You're standing outside your home, a structure that dares to call itself a cottage, despite being made of mud, sticks, and dreams long since crushed by feudal tax collectors. You are not a freelance poet or influencer. You are, functionally, a medieval cog. Your task today, labor, hard, soul-numbing labor, and spoiler, it's the same task as yesterday, and the same as tomorrow. If you're a peasant, then you're working the land. That means pulling weeds from soil that hasn't known mercy since 1172, hauling water from a stream 2 fields away while your wooden bucket leaks with malicious glee, attempting to plow earth with a dull blade, a stubborn ox, and a back that wasn't consulted about this arrangement. Want a break? That's adorable. Your break is a piece of dry bread stored in your shirt, slightly damp with chest sweat. He doesn't speak to you, because you're not people and his is you're somewhere between livestock and wallpaper. You chew slowly, tasting faint misery and a possible ant. The local lord might stroll by to check his land, mounted on a horse that eats better than you do. Cows moo with the confidence of creatures that know there'll be soup eventually, but for now, they outrank you socially. The tasks are done, but you're not. You're just a bit more broken than yesterday. You consider asking him about his job, but then remember he bathes once every 11 days in a barrel of shared soap water. Your muscles beg for retirement, but medieval pensions consist of dying slightly slower. You pour your sweat into the soil and pray it doesn't offend the cabbage gods. You briefly fantasize about shampoo and synthetic fabrics before a nearby pig snorts you back to reality. You pass. Then there's the town blacksmith, yelling as he pounds metal into vaguely sword-like shapes. He's respected, you're not. Bathing is rare and mostly a group activity, like karaoke, but with more lice. Tooth care. You chew mint and hope your teeth don't fall out while laughing. Let's talk hygiene, a concept medieval folks approached with ... courage. Your clothes are hand-stitched from wool that someone's sheep reluctantly donated. They itch, they're heavy. They smell like mildew and lost ambition. And speaking of animals, they're everywhere. Chickens strut like they pay rent. Goats glare with ancient wisdom. You return to work. The sun climbs. Finally, the bell tolls. It's late afternoon. Your limbs ache. Your soul has withdrawn into your spleen for safety, and you've just survived the daily grind. Congratulations, you're now ready for the excitement of town life. A bard is singing off-key for coins. A monk is preaching about sin, and a butcher is arguing with a rat over sausage rights. It's a short walk, but one filled with medieval ambience, rotting vegetables, mysterious puddles, and a man yelling at ducks for political reasons. Accused of theft, you might undergo trial by cold water, get tossed into a stream, and if you float, you're guilty. Sink, innocent, and also drowning. Another favorite. Trial by fire, which involves holding a hot iron. If your hand blisters, you're a criminal. If it doesn't, you're either pure or dead. You arrive at the village square, a place designed for commerce, conversation, and occasionally yelling at someone about witchcraft. It's buzzing today. Let's talk justice. In medieval times, justice was mostly a mix of superstition, improv theater, and heavy rocks. Punishments were diverse. You find the local physician, whose credentials include stocks, sit in public shame while villagers throw turnips, fines, pay with chickens, bread, or tears, exile. Pack your burlap and find new mud elsewhere. Still feeling medievally secure. Too bad, here comes medicine. You're not feeling great, your elbow oozed something yellow after yesterday's wheat threshing accident. She has 3 teeth and smells faintly of onion stew. You nod politely and walk faster. Owning a jar of leeches. The local noble has declared it weather, and a child is chasing a wheel because it's the only fun that hasn't been taxed. Reading one page of a scroll once you consider how this day has gone so far. The discomfort, the confusion, the deeply unsettling ointments. Knowing a guy named Bartholomew who didn't die instantly. Your diagnosis. Too much bile. The cure. Boil a sock, drink the water, and sleep under a beet. You consider running, but your feet are now hooves. Let's touch on fashion, if you can call it that. Your outfit is a rectangle with sleeves. Everyone dresses like they were given 10 seconds in a potato sack factory. Colors are rare unless you are rich, and even then it's mostly mud brown, plague green, or noble sad. Hats, you're sometimes featuring feathers, sometimes designed to trap birds. Romance is in the air, if your standards are subterranean. A local maiden smiles. By midday, town life has peaked. A goat has stolen someone's bread. You begin your walk home, dodging cart splashes and unidentifiable debris, and you realize medieval town life is mostly just an elaborate dare. The sun sinks like a medieval hope, slowly, bitterly, and behind a cloud that vaguely resembles a disappointed parent. The air chills, and your bones already tired from plowing, surviving town trials, and mentally battling. Plague remedies are now muttering curses in a dialect older than Latin. The day is done, but you're suffering. Not yet. The hearth glows faintly with a fire that promises warmth, but mostly delivers smoke to your eyeballs. You gnaw with caution, like a raccoon investigating plastic. Family chatter fills the air, mostly about sheep taxes, mysterious sores, and who may be cursed this week. You lie down in the same straw mattress as before, now a bit warmer thanks to collective body heat and a very confident goat named Edgar who has claimed the center spot. You share this sleeping area with. You return home, welcomed by the smell of something, possibly dinner, possibly a dying onion. Your evening meal is gruel, again, now paired with bread so hard it's legally a weapon. Soon, the candles go out, because you can't afford them. Sleep arrangements. For family members, a hen who thinks she's a pillow, that rat who has been eyeing your bread since Tuesday just coughing, snoring, shifting, and the occasional ow. That's my foot, whispered into the dark, like a medieval sonnet. You try to suppress it, because sneezing might be considered witchcraft, and you're too tired to stand trial again. There is no privacy, no pajamas, no lullabies. One full day in medieval times, and somehow, against all logic and hygiene, You're still breathing. Bandits roam at night, hoping to find a coin, a cloak, or a potato worth stealing. You grip your blanketer linen screpend, hope they find someone more exciting to rob. Your body wants to sleep, but your mind is processing. Your sore elbow still smells like boiled sock the bard in town who sang about someone turning into a duck. Whether the priest noticed you sneezing and plans a small exorcism outside, wolves howl, or maybe peasants, it's hard to tell. A mouse crawls over your toes. You feel a sneeze coming. Eventually, your eyelids surrender. You drift off, but not into dreams. Those require mental peace. You float into a foggy, uncomfortable nap, flavored with medieval ambience. The sound of pigs sighing, the smell of nearby feet, and the distant wheeze of someone who insists they refine but definitely aren't. But don't celebrate yet. Sunrise is coming, and your socks have disappeared. Again, you made it through dawn, labor, judgment, gruel, and rodent-based bedtime. Congratulations. Now let's pretend you're learning how to survive this world with hacks so questionable. They might have been written by a particularly mischievous turnip. Here's your medieval survival guide, guaranteed to leave you mildly injured, spiritually confused, and smelling faintly of onions. Health and hygiene tips. Got a wound? Slap on some moldy bread. It's technically penicillin's awkward ancestor, but mostly just bread with boundary issues. Sore throat, gargle, vinegar mixed with ground snail shells. If it doesn't cure you, you'll at least taste like ancient disappointment. Bad breath. Chew mint leaves and hope people don't notice your teeth are playing hide and seek. Feeling sick? Just lose a pint. Feeling better? That's called fainting. Lice problem. Rub garlic into your scalp, then politely die in a cloud of social rejection. Bonus remedy. Some folks swear by bleeding. Recite poetry about sheep. If they cry, it's working. Romance and courtship advice. Want to flirt? Gifts that woo include a goose feather, 3 turnips tied together with twine, or a rock that sort of looks like a heart. Pick-up line ideas. Thy pox appears quite manageable. I find thy absence of boils pleasing. Wouldst thou sit beside me in the stocks, my sweet? No promises of success, but if they say yes, you may end up with a medieval wedding. 2 witnesses, 1 goat, and 0 personal hygiene. Color options include beige, despair, dirt, elegance, and sad peasant. Culinary tips from the muddy depths. Add bark. It's free, chewy, and definitely not food. Gruel, not flavorful. Sweep it dramatically while frowning. Pottage is medieval for everything we had plus water. Throw in turnips, barley, rabbit, confusion, and mystery, or geese. Same thing. Need a snack? Just weep into your stew. It's natural, and the medieval chef probably calls it seasoning. Everything else is falling apart. You'll lose, and they'll claim your turnips. No salt? Fashion tips. Cloaks are for warmth and drama. Belts hold up your dignity. Wool, everything. Shirts, pants, socks, dreams. Accessories to try. A hat shaped like your tax debt. A pouch for storing crumbs, complaints, and emergency onions. Shoes carved from old barrels. Stylish? No. Waterproof? Also no. Magical thinking and superstitions. Medieval people believed deeply in these. Don't whistle at night. He'll summon spirits. Cats are suspicious, especially if they read Latin, to avoid bad luck. Don't stare at the moon while sneezing during a harvest feast. It's oddly specific, yet widely feared. Things you should never do. Try to outrun a noble's horse. Question the barber surgeon's credentials. He owns scissors. That's legally enough. Ask for seconds at dinner. That's a luxury reserved for nobles, goats, and mysterious visitors who might be angels. The moon hangs low, pale and indifferent. You've endured an entire day of medieval madness, from sunrise gruel to moonlight rats. And now, in the quiet moments before dawn, reality settles in like damp socks. Your back throbs, your teeth feel medieval, your emotions are vaguely oat. You lie still, surrounded by snoring feathers, and a draft that's definitely entering through a hole someone once called a window. Somehow, which makes them wildly impressive or wildly stubborn. You don't dream, because dreams belong to the well-fed. Instead, you reflect. What have we learned? People survive this era daily. If you weren't itchy, cold, and emotionally tired, you were probably considered a witch. Comfort was illegal. Food had one flavor: despair. Occasionally garlic. Medicine doubled as punishment. If it didn't cure you, It certainly made you wish for a swift exit. Justice was a raffle, and you never bought a ticket. You think back to the highlights, being mildly insulted by a goat named Edgar, watching a child throw a turnip at a bard bleeding from 12 locations just to be considered healthy. There's a soft rustle beside you, probably the mouse returning for emotional support. You nod silently, sharing a moment of mutual exhaustion. If you were to write a letter to your future self, he would say, "Your blanket has migrated to someone else's legs. You are, in every possible sense, done." If you ever complain about slow Wi-Fi again, remember the time you shared a toilet with a chicken. The fire has gone out, but guess what? Tomorrow arrives in 4 hours, and it smells like cabbage. You've survived a full day in medieval times. Barely your soul is. Your expectations for comfort have been permanently downgraded. You now look at spoons with gratitude and indoor plumbing like a death magic forged by elven kings. So how do you come back to the modern world without shouting at pigeons or hoarding turnips just in case? Let me gently walk you through your emotional and spiritual re-entry, relearning the joy of modern toilets. Step 1 in healing. Embrace the porcelain miracle. You don't need a bucket. You don't need privacy-related negotiations with livestock. You don't even have to carry anything to a field. The toilet flush is like a celebration of engineering and dignity. Sit, reflect, cry softly if needed, making peace with bread, modern bread. Soft, fluffy, sliceable without causing dental emergencies. You'll have to reprogram your instincts. Stop checking it for rocks. Stop apologizing to your molars before chewing. Stop hoarding it in your tunic. It's okay. The bakery doesn't judge your trauma. Back in the medieval mudscape, information was whispered through suspicious monks and passed along by gossiping chickens. Now you have Wi-Fi, data, Google, me, but please resist. Asking your phone for plague cures via boiled sock water, using your TV as a torch substitute, yelling what year bit in public if someone sneezes. Let the pixels comfort you, showering like royalty scented, functional. Showerheads cascade warm water without judgment or group participation. Soap exists. You don't need garlic. You don't need herbs tied to twine. Just step in, lather, rinse, and resist the urge to shout, "Behold, I cleanse." Your shampoo smells like mango. Breathe it in. That's progress. Talking to people without fear of trial. You can say the word moon without being dunked in a stream. You're safe. No one thinks your knowledge of astronomy makes you a heretic. People use words like vibe and gluten freely. Enjoy these freedoms. Use them to connect. And yes, you're allowed to be sarcastic without risking banishment. You have blankets, temperature control, snack variety, and shows where people smile without worms involved. Coping with comfort. You walk through a gruel-drenched day of straw mattresses and garlic remedies. You smelled like history, slept like regret, and learned that rats make very bad therapists. This chair would have been a king's throne in 1347. Everything feels too easy now. It's okay to struggle. It's okay to sit on a couch and mutter. You deserve comfort. You've suffered imaginary medieval horrors beyond reason. As you readjust, remember this. You didn't thrive in medieval times. You didn't even survive well, but you endured. And now, you're modern again. Flushed, fed, fabulous. The world is quiet now. Not medieval quiet where silence meant wolves were circling or bandits had finally learned stealth, but truly modern quiet. There's no bard singing off-key under your window. No goat stealing your socks. No mysterious fog oozing garlic and existential dread. You're safe. As you stare at your non-straw mattress, clean water bottle, and climate-controlled walls, the absurdity of your medieval day settles like a weighted blanket filled with historical confusion. What was that journey? Truly, it was a lesson. It was a test. It was an absurd emotional boot camp conducted by grumpy spirits in wool trousers. You didn't thrive in medieval times, not even close. You didn't adapt. You didn't invent anything. You barely survived. But you learned. You learned how deeply inappropriate it is to share bedtime with livestock. You learned how much comfort the modern world offers. You learned how strong your stomach is when faced with grey stew. You are wiser now. Not wiser like a wizard, not. The cool kind with potions and poetry boot. Wiser like someone who tasted despair via oat broth. A toast here's too. Soap that doesn't scream. Beds with springs and no feathers. And here's to your journey, silly, surreal, and somehow meaningful. Shoes that match your feet. not resist them romance that doesn't include turnips. Here's to modern life, filled with endless luxuries you once took for granted. You saw what history offered, and you said no thank you, politely but firmly. As the final parchment closes on this tale, remember, if you hear Gregorian chanting, it's probably a playlist. Not because you're weak, but because you're delightfully modern. If your dinner looks like soup with regrets, it's time to order takeout. If a goat starts flirting with you, seek help. You're back now, enlightened, entertained, ever so slightly emotionally scarred, and you wouldn't last a day in medieval times. So, you've returned from your medieval ordeal and rejoined the 21st century, clean, quiet, unplagued. But something's off. You wake up, reach for your phone, and hesitate. The pillow feels too soft. The blanket suspiciously lacking straw. Your stomach rumbles for eggs, but a ghostly part of your soul craves gruel. Welcome to the post-medieval phantom phase, where part of you still expects your chamber pot to judge you, and a goat named Edgar to steal your toast. Emotional aftershocks. You catch yourself muttering things like, "Is this bread fortified enough to be thrown at criminals? Where did we store the leeches again?" This Spotify playlist lacks dramatic Gregorian chanting. Your friends seem normal. Then you remember how many times you cried during soup and quietly delete the draft. To normal, no one's screaming about turnip taxes or suspicious moons. You begin to suspect comfort has made them weak. You consider writing a memoir, fleas, gruel, and regret one day in medieval hell. You begin missing it. The simplicity, the shared suffering, the one blanket 12 bodas sort of intimacy. Strange side effects. You start wearing cloaks to Zoom meetings. You address your microwave as thine radiant heatbox, and you'll never hear the word rut without checking your foot for nibble marks. You begin rating public bathrooms as worthy of a bishop or unfit for poultry. Worst of all, but as a survivor of one day that felt like a month, smelled like despair, and sounded like someone whistling with a mouthful of onion paste. But then you stub your toe. Remember that medieval shoes were literally boxes nailed to hope, and you feel better, letting go. The medieval day may be done, but your transformation is complete. You'll never look at oats without squinting. You'll never use garlic casually again. You are reborn, not as a knight, not as a baron. As the imaginary sun rises one last time over your fictional mud hut, we gather ourselves to reflect on the glorious nonsense we've spun. You didn't just endure medieval life. You dramatized it. You gave it flair, flavor, and a lot of unwashed socks. So now, as the virtual candle dims, it's time to unfurl the parchment of credits. Cast of characters. You brave soul, rat bedmate, survivor of oat-based trauma, Edgar the goat, sock thief, emotional antagonist the gruel, played by Sadness and a Spoon local bard, vocals by Turnip and the Cabbage Choir, trial by fire judge, legally unqualified, spiritually exhausted the rat, motivational coach, unsolicited roommate, medieval shoes, pain made wearable, historical accuracy, every injustice exaggerated, every stew emotionally processed, every superstition treated with the respect it absolutely doesn't deserve. You may have noticed liberties were taken. Historical sources were politely ignored in favor of comedy. Artistic license was wielded like a rusty peasant shovel. Suggested end-cred soundtrack, Gregorian chant, remix chamber pot blues, lute solo. My Gruel has left me goat step anthem. Bleat of glory optional animation, fade to parchment, followed by a slow-motion turnip rolling across cobblestones. Viewer achievements. If you've made it through this entire saga, you've earned Golden Spoon of Survival. For bravery in fictional breakfast consumption, Sock of Honor. For enduring rodent romance, Candle of Realization. For discovering that soap is everything, Slow pan over a misty field. A rooster screams into the void. A tattered cloak flaps. A chamber pot trembles. Voiceover. In a world where soap is forbidden and stew holds secrets, one modern soul must survive before the rats tuck him in. Cut to you, squinting at the sunrise, chewing ominous gruel. Goat, named Edgar Gallops, passed with stolen dignity. Scene montage highlights. You holding a turnip with the intensity of a Shakespearean dagger. Trial by water. In a puddle shaped like disappointment. Zoom in on your confused expression as the village healer prescribes boiled sock tea. You trying to flirt, using the phrase "thou art less plagued than most." intercut with rats forming a support group, a bard singing oats and woe in a minor key, you sobbing softly as you share a bed with poultry. Welcome to the cutting room floor of your historical meltdown, a cozy corner where absurd moments, plot holes, and questionable decisions found their forever home. These aren't just out, they're the heart and soul of medieval mayhem at its most unhinged. Deleted scenes. 1. The failed bread duel. Two peasants try to settle a dispute with stale bread swords. Both suffer dental trauma. The baker declares neutrality. 2. Goat tax. Rebellion. Edgar the Goat stages a protest by stealing everyone's cabbage. The town briefly considers his leadership. 3. Plague adjacent romance. You flirt, using a poem that references boils as metaphors for longing. It works. The relationship lasts exactly 7 minutes. 4. Bard auditions gone wrong. Local bard tries juggling turnips while singing about foot rot. The turnips win. Unseen horrors. You accidentally attend a medieval spa that involves bee stings, mud, and assertive squirrels. Your shoes catch fire when exposed to sunlight. No explanation given. The villagers cheer. Someone puts garlic in your pillow for luck. You dream exclusively about weeping onions and betrayal. Chicken contributed dialogue. You once yelled at a chicken to do your part. The chicken responded by laying an egg directly into your boot. It was nominated for Best Supporting Actor. Audio errors. Lute player sneezes mid-solo and tries to play it off as jazz. Gregorian chant, interrupted by spontaneous cow mooing later, released as remix, becomes a tavern hit. Timeline, confusion. What century is this again, villager? Rat. Feedback anonymous. Rat note slipped under your straw bed. The crying was loud but emotionally textured. Would cuddle again. We appreciated the crumbs. 1. You're too clean for history. The medieval world saw soap as suspicious. You, meanwhile, panic if you drop your toothbrush behind the sink. Compatibility 0. 2. Emotional support. Rodents. While modern society frowns upon rat snuggles, medieval beds encourage them. You now flinch every time a mouse appears in Pixar. 3. Oat-based PTSD. You've reached your lifelong limit for grey pot. If you ever meet another bowl, you might weep or shout, "Begone." 4. Fashion trauma. Those wool tunics chafed your soul. You are now psychologically allergic to sackcloth and morally opposed to feathered hats that doubled as bird traps. 5. You value your eyebrows. Medieval folks plucked them in weird ways. Some even removed them to look more pious. That's not just wrong, it's unsafe. Souvenirs from suffering you didn't leave empty. No, you've collected. 32 emotional splinters. 1 questionable tooth bruise. They whisper. 7 blurry memories involving angry monks, and a new appreciation for fabric softener. You wear your scars like badges, slightly damp, historically confusing badges. I once bathed in a bucket while being judged by poultry. Prophecy. What lies ahead? You'll tell your descendants about Edgar the Goat. You'll make toast with reverence. You'll possibly start calling your closet the cloak chamber. But most importantly, you'll laugh, because somewhere between leeches and lice, you found the absurd heartbeat of humanity's past and turned it into art. Before the saga fades into the candlelit mist of memory, we open one last creaky door. The artifact vault. Every great historical trauma deserves and yours is a treasure chest of questionable objects and unasked-for memories. They're symbols of your endurance, confusion, and slight emotional mildew. These aren't just items. Burnt, possibly cursed. You stirred 12 bowls of gruel with it. It saw tears. It heard secrets. It never judged. Object number 1. The spoon of sorrow bent, engraved with the words, "May thy stew be less disappointing tomorrow." Object number 2. The cloak of itch, woven from goat regret and peasant nostalgia, smells faintly of garlic and unresolved arguments. In return, they offered emotional stability and foot warmth, wherein it grants +2 resistance to wind and -87 charisma. Object number 3. The rat friendship contract, always sad, passed down through generations as a warning, signed in breadcrumbs. You promised not to scream when they nested in your sock drawer. Object number 4. The bowl of eternal gruel, now cold. Stir not this mush, lest the awaken ancestral Object number 5. Edgar's autographed hoofprint, stolen from the village square during the Great Turnip Heist, includes a note. "I regret nothing. Love." It rumored to bring luck, but mostly it brings staring. Object number 6. Garlic of reckoning used in 47 failed remedies, once hung over your bed for health, accidentally summoned the local gossip guild instead, currently weeping softly in the artifact drawer. These relics are proof that even imaginary suffering deserves a museum, and yours, well, yours needs velvet ropes and a janitor trained in plague lore. Be it known throughout kingdoms near and far, dusty and mildly scented with goat, that Mahoney the Modern has valiantly stumbled through one full day of medieval existence surviving soup-based despair, livestock, intimacy, and judicial nonsense with minimal dignity and exceptional comedic flair. Titles earned through imaginary suffering. Sir sleeps with rats, distinguished for sharing bedding with rodents and emotional baggage. Baron of gruel for consuming history's saddest food, with courage and seasoning-related confusion. Keeper of the garlic poultice, no health improved, but morale remained faintly amused. Knight of the itchy tunic for bravery in wall-based warfare. Signature traits of this epic survivor. Exhibited mild panic when soap was unavailable. Developed romantic interest in plague doctors. Attempted to duel using bread. Spoke to chickens with conviction. Yelled hark, unironically. Included with this certificate, one embroidered turnip crest. A complimentary scroll of things thou shalt not do again. Emotional support. Rat words of closing. Let it be declared, while thy survival was brief, and thy socks emotionally compromised, thy story shall echo through taverns, Discord servers, and late-night storytelling sessions for all time. You didn't win, but you narrated magnificently. Welcome, weary traveler of time and imagination, to the Museum of Manners, medieval misery, home to discomfort, absurdity, and historically baffling decisions. This is no ordinary museum. This is a place where every floor creaks with regret, and every exhibit whispers, "Thou shouldst have stayed in bed." Let's begin your tour. Exhibit Hall I, the chamber of unnecessary oats. Visitors may smell but not consume. Complaints will be ignored. Gruel samples, each bowl sadder than the last. Live lute music, played by a bard with 3 chords and 0 awareness of tempo. See who accuses you of witchcraft first. Interactive sneezing station. Try medieval sneezes. Exhibit Hall 2. The Goat Uprising Memorial Statue of Edgar Bronze. Majestic, mid-sock theft. Turnip trophy case, featuring vegetables that survived 3 rebellions. Hoofprint maze. Follow the path of chaos and confusion. Exhibit Hall 3. Fashion regrets. Through the ages, the itchy tunic wall. Reach in, feel sadness. Hat with built-in birds, not available in gift shop. Mirror of reflection. Shows what you would have looked like as a medieval romantic failure. Exhibit Hall 4. The Rodent Lounge Rat Cuddle Zone. Refreeded peasant bedding with emotional support rodents. Felt honored. Mouse Diary Archive. Read entries like, Huma cried on bread again. Gift shop scented candle. Essence of emotional soup. Socks of survival. Slightly itchy. Mostly triumphant parchment postcard. Wish thou were here. You've just stepped foot into the most peculiar and unforgettable exhibit of pre-plumbing history. This isn't your grandma's museum unless she once arm wrestled a goat over a turnip stew. This pamphlet serves as your roadmap to discomfort, your passport to oat-based regret, and your emotional compass through cobblestone chaos. Museum attractions now with optional goat snoring ambience. Straw bed simulator lay upon mystery lumps while rats consider friendship. The chamber pot challenge race to the privy with authentic medieval obstacles. Chickens, shame, and surprising puddles. Gruel tasting station sample 12. Textures of disappointment. Salt not included. Trial by soup theatre reenacts justice systems so baffling you'll miss jury duty. Edgar sock theft. Diorama, an award-winning animatronic reenactment of the Great Goat Rebellion. VIP experiences turnip carving class. Make vegetables look like your deepest regrets. The Old Flirting Workshop. Compliment someone's lack of boils. Rodent whispering hour. Learn how to emotionally bond with mice while sitting in hay. Educational offerings. Surviving without soap. A historical tragedy. Fashion or folly. Wool as emotional armor. The history of sobbing into stew. Goat diplomacy in the plague. A panel discussion. Gift shop favorites. I survived medieval times and all I got was dysentery-scented candle. Oats and regret. Commemorative spoon with sadness engraving. Novelty rat plushie named Reginald the Comfort Mouse. Postcards from Edgar. Wish you were here. sung in a tavern lit by sadness and turnip candles. Oh, gather the round, the modern folk dear, and hear of brave whose choices unclear led him through anguish, through goats and through grime, one full weary day in medieval time. Verse I, the waking of woe. He rose from a mattress of straw-stuffed regret, with rats in his blanket and aches in his neck. The rooster did scream, the porridge did sneer, as Mahoney prepared for his breakfast of fear. Verse 2, the grind and the gloom, with shoes made of splinters and hopes running thin. He learned that in history, comfort's a sin. He hoed, and he hauled, and he wept in the soil, while noblemen galloped and peasants did toil. Verse 3, of townsfolk and trials he journeyed to town, through puddles and fog, was judged by a chicken, misdiagnosed by a log. The bard sang of boils, the crowd tossed old fruit, and Mahoney discovered that fashion's a brute. Verse 4, the night of despair. He dined in the gloom, he slept on his fears, beside goats and siblings and whispering ears. A mouse snuck a cuttle, a candle gave up, and dreams fled his mind like stew from a cup. Final chorus. The modern return, rejecting all stew that looks vaguely rough, but in his deep heart the memories gnaw of that day in the past, with no working spar. Now Mahoney sits high on a cushion with fluff. Curator's closing statement. The dust settles. The legend stays itchy, where the museum shuts its doors, and the tale becomes timeless folklore with questionable hygiene. Esteemed visitors, weary wanderers, and honorable survivors of oat-based distress, as your footsteps echoed down the cobblestone halls of the Museum of Marnie's medieval misery, we the curators of confusion and torchbearers of absurdity offer this final blessing. May your chamber pots always be someone else's problem. May your socks remain unknown, and may your memories of this journey linger softly, like garlic in wool. You've shown the world that one day in the past is more than enough, and that humor can thrive in the strangest corners of imagined agony. Your tale has transcended mere storytelling. It's become a folk ritual, a bard's anthem, a bedtime fable for children who think history was elegant. On display forever, a scroll stained with soup and emotional residue, the Goat's Manifesto. A musical spoon that only plays Sighs Reginald. The rat, now stuffed and inspirational, your signature tunic, frayed by hardship, framed in pride. The torches are dimming. The bard has packed his turnips. The mice are unionizing, but your legacy, still softly echoing through hay and history. Front, design. A picturesque haystack scene with rats having tea. Edgar the goat lounging in a cloak, and a banner overhead reading, Medieval Misery Museum, where gruel meets grit. Stamp corner, a wax seal shaped like a spoon. Handwritten message, dearest time. The bed was itchy, the stew was grey, and Edgar stole everyone's dignity again. I laughed, I cried. I may never emotionally recover from the sock incident, but 'twas a journey worthy of legends and lice. The museum was enlightening, especially the trial by bread, and the rodent whispering hour sent socks, real ones, yours in historical suffering. Ceremony of the grumbled tunic bonus section. If you visit, bring garlic for self-defense and seasoning. Avoid dueling with vegetables after sunset. Compliment the bard, even if he's crying. Don't ask Edgar about politics.